All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast.
Hello.
I'm Steph.
Did I come in too early? This time.
This is why we give you cues.
Well, I'm Liz.
And we're your hosts for today. How are you today?
Tired.
It's been a busy week. And how was our Thanksgiving? I mean, we had Thanksgiving
I
together.
forgot about that.
Yeah, and I mean, we shared Thanksgiving because we live together. But let's talk about Thanksgiving real quick. How was it? From your perspective. I'll give my perspective.
Okay, to be honest, this was the best Thanksgiving of my life.
I agree.
Not because of so let me preface. Thanksgiving was at my sister's house this year. She hosted it. And so it's my sister's husband's family that comes over or that they share Thanksgiving with. So it's not my immediate family at all. So every year we would go over to like his aunt's house.
Yeah, I would say aunt's.
Yeah, his aunt's house, and it was great. But this year, my sister and him decided to host it, and we just had to walk right over because they're our neighbors, and it was really good.
It was, yeah.
I had like a really good time. It was nice, like just to see everybody, and I feel like mentally this was the best Thanksgiving for me ever. Normally around the holidays, I get like, I don't know if you would call it like holiday depression
Right.
or seasonal. I don't know.
Right.
But normally I am very like depressed, Steph.
Yeah.
Very depressed on like every holiday, even like my birthday.
Right.
So, but no, I've been doing really well in my mind. So it was a really great Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say I enjoyed this Thanksgiving. I mean, I hung out with Isaiah literally the entire day.
Isaiah is our 3-year-old nephew.
Our 3-year-old nephew. Hung out with him literally the entire time.
You guys are inseparable.
So it was great. I mean, we talked. He shared some pretzels with me.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation. What did we talk about? We talked about the floats this year.
He enjoyed the floats.
We really enjoyed watching the parade. I really enjoyed the parade.
I hate that. It's so boring.
I had such a great. I love the parade.
All you do is just watch commercials the whole time.
I know. That's the one thing that I hate about the parade is the commercials, but they got to make money somehow,
That's true.
But other than that, no, it was really good. The food was amazing this year.
The food was bomb.
It was amazing.
Everybody liked my food. I was like really
Oh my God, I
nervous.
know. Your little cheese balls things. They were really good.
I don't know.
I really liked it.
You did?
I loved it. And normally I'm
shocked.
very picky.
You are? I was like, I wasn't even going to have you try them because I'm like, I know you're not gonna
I know.
like
I
it,
remember when I saw it the night before.
You were like, ew.
No,
I was like, okay.
No, I was
Okay.
like, so do you fry them?
I was like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. You literally gagged at the sight of them.
I was like, they look like meatballs, like uncooked meatballs. I'm like, what is this?
No, but everybody was obsessed with them.
And then I saw your face, and I was like, no, but they look great.
I was like, I just slaved in here for like 2 hours.
They were like 2 hours. You were in the kitchen, and I walked over, and I'm like, what is this crap?
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
They're actually pretty good.
It tasted so good.
Yeah, but this whole spread of everything, everybody brought something so good. There was so much food, yet no leftovers,
we didn't get any.
which is actually offensive.
And your parents didn't even take home nobody.
Yo, everybody
in the
knows
family.
that the best part of Thanksgiving is the next day when you get to have the leftovers.
And we didn't have any.
We didn't get nothing.
We were
no
so,
pumpkin pie. Like, are you kidding?
We were so disappointed.
Sorry.
I know, because we were so disappointed because the next day we went over like hoping for something.
There was so
even a
much
little bit
food.
later in the night, we were like, yo, I'm hungry again.
Yeah.
So we went up to get food and there was nothing.
I was like, this is offensive.
I'm like, what happened? Did Thanksgiving even happen?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah. But other than that, it was great.
Yeah, it was.
It was a good
and then
Thanksgiving.
Black Friday was good. We went to the mall.
Black Friday was a moment.
Honestly, it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't. It wasn't as overwhelming. It kind of felt like a normal, like...
It did, just with like a lot more people. There wasn't like too much chaos.
Right, no.
Just a lot of people.
Yeah, it could have been also the area that we were in.
Yeah, that's true.
But it wasn't bad. I got shoved a few times.
Yeah, I didn't.
Which I didn't really appreciate, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I understand people have places to go and they have things that they need to get done. But other than that, it was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad.
We hope your holiday was really beautiful. And
Yeah,
good.
let us know how it was. We
Yeah.
would love to hear about your
What
holidays.
did you make?
Oh my gosh.
That's what I want to know. What was
Did
your
you?
favorite dish?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Did you cook?
Yeah.
and what was your favorite dish?
Yeah.
What was your favorite dessert? My favorite dessert, again, is what you made, that little dip thing that you made.
Oh, I hated it.
I love that. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
There was so many things there that I was like, this is pretty good. I ate so much. I ate more
I didn't eat that much
finger food than I did the actual
I had like
meal.
A bunch of appetizers or hors d'oeuvres. I don't know how to say it.
And then dessert. I had more of that than I did like
eat that
actual dinner. I had like maybe a little bit of dinner.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't eat that much.
Right. So I'm excited about today's topic. It's something that's actually, we actually just had this conversation before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it's knowing the season that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we mean by season, you can name it like the place that you're in and the space that you're in at this point of your life, and understanding like the importance of it, and understanding like where you're at and what you're ready for and what you're not ready for, right?
Right.
And like how important those things are, and how not knowing what season you're in, how it can affect you. And so we have like personal, I guess, stories you can say that we want to share with you guys today regarding like knowing the season that you're in.
Yeah.
I know that for me, like one of the most important things for me, because I'm such a like a self-aware person, like, okay, where am I? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And so on and so forth. Where most people aren't necessarily like that. But what I've noticed is that I never used to be a self-aware person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never used to be the person that's like, okay, what season am I in? Why am I feeling these things? What got me to start thinking in that direction is I was reading 3 John 1-2, and it says, I hope, John's writing this, and he says, I hope all is well with you and that you are healthy in body as you are strong in the spirit. And other versions say like that you're I hope that you prosper, like your body prosper just as your soul prospers. And like the word soul has to do with your mind and your emotions. So I hope that your mind and your emotions prosper, and if that's prospering, then everything around you will begin to prosper.
Interesting.
And so like it's this verse of like, are you prospering in your emotions? Are you prospering in your mind? Do you know where you're at? And I think that's so important to learn, is like, am I prospering in these areas of my life so that everything around me can also prosper? And so I just started to learn like, okay, where am I? What season am I in?
Be very attentive.
Yeah, be very attentive to what I need and where I'm at in my life.
Yep.
And I've noticed that when I started doing that, I started to be happier. I found more joy. I was able to communicate better. Like, this is where I am, this is where I'm not, this is what I can do like for people, because I'm aware of what season I'm in.
I think like being aware of the season that you're in, it kind of makes you appreciate the things that happened in the past, the season that you came from, and it also makes you look forward to the season to come.
Right.
That's personally why I enjoy like knowing the season that I'm in, because also I'm a very orderly person.
Right.
And I need to know like what my goal is.
Right.
It's almost like setting a goal for yourself in that season.
Right.
So I really enjoy like setting a season.
Yeah.
Or figuring it out.
It out. Right. And I kind of want to share a story, if that's okay.
Please do.
About like what happens when you don't know what season you're in, because you don't know what you're ready for and what you're not ready for.
Right.
So I kind of just want to jump into it. If
Okay.
that's okay. Yeah. So it was, I think was it 2 years ago? 3 years maybe?
I think 3 now.
3 years ago maybe. I decided, or I don't know if it was my decision. I don't know.
I think it might have been a little bit mutual.
I think it was a mutual thing.
I think your heart was just open to go.
Right. I think it was a mutual thing where I was like, I want to go to Costa Rica. We knew missionaries that were based in Costa Rica. And in my heart, I wanted to go because of, we were family friends. We really knew each other.
You trusted them?
I trusted them. Yeah. I was going to be going with another friend of mine. So I wasn't going to be by myself. And I had such an amazing experience in Belgium that I was like, yeah, I definitely
have to share that story, Steph. There has to be a whole podcast
on Belgium.
Like this video if you want Stephanie to share her Belgium story.
My Belgium experience.
Oh my
is
God,
wild.
it's amazing. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So I had a really great experience in Belgium. And I was like, yeah, I would love to have kind of this experience in Costa Rica. And at this point in my life, I'm a youth pastor, and I'm just kind of feeling like a transition happening in my life, but I don't really have the words for it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what season I'm in. So I'm kind of feeling this transition happen. And I'm like, okay, like maybe it's the missions field. Maybe God is transitioning me into the missions field, you know? And so I start gearing towards that. I'm going to go on the missions field, you know, like we spoke with the leaders, even the leaders that were over me. And they were like, absolutely, like, this is it. We need to send you to Costa Rica. You have to go. And so it kind of felt like the stars were aligned. Like it felt perfect. It felt perfect. Like everything was falling into place. I got all my funding. If anything, your family, I think funded my entire trip.
I remember
like
that,
in a day, right? It was like Sam, Micah, you were on the phone with me. I remember it. And like, it felt like everything was like perfect. You know what I mean? But I still had that hint of like check in my spirit that was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be going on this trip. But I was like, oh, but it's okay. Like, you know, like I'm supposed to do it. Like, I don't know. I'm feeling a transition, but I don't know what this transition is. So I think this is it. And I'm just going to go. It's just fear. Because, you know, like I don't like flying. Anyone that knows me knows that airports, flying, even if it's to like an hour away.
You have like major flying anxiety.
Oh, anxiety to like my core. And like, and that's part of my Belgium trip where like I almost turned around. Like I was like, I can't do this. My anxiety is so bad that like, I'm like, maybe it's that. Right. You know, like maybe that's what's happening is I'm feeling this fear. And so in the meantime, while preparing for this trip, I'm also leading the youth. And I remember, I would never forget this. We were having a parent night where we were it was in your house upstairs. And we were kind of explaining to the parents, like, this is what we're doing with your teenagers. You know what I mean? Like, this is the progress that we've made. This is what to look forward to into the next coming months, like things like that. And we prayed over the parents, all the leaders, and then the parents prayed over the leaders.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was a really great night. And I remember one of the parents, she came up to me and she was like, the Lord says to you, America first and then the nations. You're not supposed to be leaving America. Ooh, and I remember, and this is like a month before I was supposed to go to Costa Rica. Yeah. And I remember, and I sat there and I was like, amen.
Yeah,
like, I was like, what does that mean? Like, what? Like, okay, ha ha ha. And I remember saying like, no, like that's, and I just knew in that moment, like, I don't think I'm supposed to be going on.
You felt that like correction.
That correction, yeah, like kind of that shift. But then at the same time, I'm like, I also kind of feel like I'm not supposed to be doing youth anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
But like, I thought this was it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not that I wasn't praying about, okay, Lord, where do you want me? I'm just such a jump in kind of a girl that if I'm like, and this is where I learned, like, not every opportunity, not every good opportunity is a God opportunity. Right. I learned that lesson in this season. Right. Because I'm like, this is a good opportunity. Why wouldn't it be God? Right. Yeah. Like, it's good. Like, there's nothing wrong here. You know what I'm saying? It's a good place for me to, you know, like, start. It's a good place for me to kind of continue to go into the nations. It's a great experience. Yeah. I know the people. Like, you're safe. I'm safe
in all forms.
Right. It's a good opportunity. Secure. Yeah. It's a good opportunity for me. And I learned that, again, like, not every good opportunity is a God opportunity. So I kind of ignore the feelings that I've been feeling, and I've kind of ignored the entire, like, you know, that word. Yeah, the check. And I'm just like, okay, like, I'm just gonna go, you know. Right. And at the same time, my friend went a month before me, and we're getting phone calls in, and she's just explaining, like, this isn't going good.
It's tough.
Like, it's really tough here. Like, there's a lot going wrong. And like, that should have been like the sign, like, Stephanie, do not go.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I know like you as a friend, because
Right.
you were very close, and I remember you being like, I need to like I can't back out.
I can't back out.
And like I need to go help my friend.
Right, because I felt like she was getting beat up.
Because she was stuck.
She was
in
stuck.
a sense.
Right. And like she still had like 4 more months.
Yeah, she had a whole month. She had how many months?
She was there in May. I was leaving in June.
Oh, you
and
mean
we had
weeks.
the summer.
You mean weeks? I don't know. You were gone for
she
a
was
while.
there in May, and it was like I was flying out June 1st. So from the ending of May, and she still had June, July, August.
Oh.
And I had June, July, August.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. Okay, sorry. I totally forgot the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, no, yes, you're correct. She had like 3 more months
She had like 3 more months left. So like I was like, I'm not going to leave her out there for 3 months. Like she's going to come back in August. You know what I'm saying? And we made these plans. Like we were going to go. Like we were going to go. You know what I'm saying? We had like it all planned out, you know. We were gonna go into the villages and this, that, third. We bought the equipment, like we bought everything. I was like, we were ready to go.
You really invested in that.
Yeah, and I remember like maybe a few days before I left, I was in staff meeting, and they were like, "Are you even excited to go?" And I was like, "No." That's what I said.
I remember because this is when you and I became actual friends. Yeah, because it went from us kind of in a sense being like coworkers to like friends.
Right.
And I remember you just like expressing to me like, I don't really care to go. I'm just kind of gonna go.
Right. I'm like, I'm just going to go. Like it is, I'm too far in now.
Yeah.
So they knew that I didn't want to go. Like everyone, it was blatant. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this now. Like it's too late though. That's what I felt. And I just want you guys to know, like, if you ever feel that, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to like be like, I got it wrong. You know, because there was a little bit of pride there where I was like, I didn't want to say like, maybe I heard wrong. Maybe I got it wrong, you know? So I fly out June 1st, and my flight there was fine. Like I met with this lady who was a witch. Like she sat right next to me. It was fine. Like
interesting.
I'm like, it's fine. But when I landed, I went through customs and I met with the missionaries, and I just knew like, like this is not going to go well. So I land there, I meet with the missionaries, and I just feel this thing inside of me. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. You know, I don't know if this is something I'm supposed to be doing. So we get to the house, it was great. Like the house was beautiful. Like it wasn't like I was sleeping in a hut. But we get to the house, and there's like an infestation of like
what?
Bugs and cockroaches. and which is fine. Like this is missions trip, you know.
Oh my God, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, like it was fine. Like it wasn't like I was expecting worse because it's a third world country.
Right.
So we get there, there's no hot water. It's cold water, and our power shuts off like for 6 hours. Boy. And when the power shuts off, you're not allowed to open the refrigerator. You can't get water. You can't breathe. Can't get anything to eat. It's like there's nothing to do. Like where are you gonna go?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're literally just stuck. So I kind of had time to kind of sit with one of the missionaries and kind of like get debriefed, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, this is what to expect, this is what's going on. I go to my first meeting, and weird, my friend isn't with us. Like it was this awkward just thing where it was like she didn't come to any of the meetings. There was this weird like
she wasn't invited to the meetings?
Yes. Yes. It was like weird.
Okay.
And so I go to the meetings, and it's like all of a sudden they're like, you're going to preach. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, you're going to preach on the Holy Spirit. It needs to be translated in Spanish, and you need to just do it. And I'm like,
even though you speak Spanish.
Right, but I've never preached in Spanish.
Okay.
That's a whole different animal.
Is it? Really? I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It's a little bit more difficult than me holding a conversation with you.
Interesting.
And so I'm like, oh, and like the Spanish that they speak in Costa Rica is different than the Spanish that my parents taught me.
Okay.
So I'm like, some words don't mean anything in Costa Rica that they do from what I'm taught. So I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As the days kind of unfolded, I'm preparing to preach. I'm sitting with like a Spanish translator, and I'm just feeling progressively like I am not supposed to be here. And it just got progressively worse. It didn't work with the missionaries, where there was so much tension. There was so much tension between me and the friend that I was with. There was just like everything just started to go south.
Everything was against.
That's what it felt like. Everything just started to go south. And I didn't understand why. Like, God, like, if all of these things lined up, then why is this happening?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why does it feel like the country is spitting me out?
Yeah, because I feel like there's sometimes times where you come against things
like resistance.
Yeah, resistance because you're supposed to be doing something, and then there's times when there's resistance when you're not supposed to be doing something.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like.
It's hard to differentiate the two, I feel sometimes.
Yeah, I
well, actually that's not true, because I feel like when you're facing something that you know you're called to or called to be doing, you have like faith, like this deep faith that like comes up out of nowhere.
Right. And there's like a sense of joy and favor with the Lord that's there. But like when you're involved in something that
you're
like,
not supposed to be a part of, it's like death all around.
It's death all around. Okay. And that's what it started to feel like. Yeah. I think I was there maybe 2 weeks. And
2.5, I think.
And I woke up one day and I was just crying. And I remember just like being like, God, you need to get me out of here. And like, and I was just weeping, like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I want to go home. Like, I need to go home.
And it wasn't, you didn't want to leave because it was hard or anything.
No, I didn't care about that. I mean, like in Belgium, we slept on the floor. Like I didn't, like my circumstances in Belgium were worse. Yeah. So it wasn't because it was like I was uncomfortable or because it just felt like death. It just felt like I'm not supposed to be here. Something's not right. I want to go home.
Yeah.
And I normally don't feel those things. Like it's very rare for me to feel that feeling. And the issue is I'm 6-7 hours away.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like I'm in a different country.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I'm like praying like, God, like please. And then what ended up happening is my pastor at the time got wind that things were just not going good.
Also, I feel like things weren't really going well between you and the missionaries as well.
Right. There was just so much tension all around.
Yeah.
He got wind and they ended up pulling us. And then the flight home was like even awkward and worse because they have to now drive us home because it's like you were scheduled to be here 3-4 months. You're going home 2.5 weeks, me and her. Yeah. She was there for a month and it was just bad. Weird. All around, just bad. Could have been avoided had I listened.
And you were warned.
I was warned, yeah. And on the flight home, I remember just sitting there and like just praying and just like the flight home took like maybe 8-9 hours because we got like stranded on the map because of some issues. It was just a nightmare. Yeah. So we finally come home and like on the flight, I remember being like, God, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand what happened. I don't understand how things went south so quickly. I don't understand, like, what's going on and why I was feeling the things that I was feeling. Like, was I not supposed to go? And the Lord clearly was like, no. Right. I never said yes to that. If anything, your season was a season of rest. And so I step off the plane and I'm like, oh, my goodness, I'm in a season of I'm not supposed to be doing ministry at all. And I didn't listen.
No, you didn't.
I get right back into ministry. If anything, I take on even more ministry. Yeah. And then it continues to like, just like kill things inside of me. And then I'm dealing with like, and I said, I remember sitting with a leader and being like, I feel like I died in Costa Rica. Like, I feel like something died in me out there.
Yeah, something.
Like something happened in Costa Rica that was not supposed to happen. I didn't understand like, okay, Steph, like it's time to slow down. Yeah. And I remember saying, I never really processed it. And I remember saying to to one of my leaders, like I feel like something died in me in Costa Rica. Like I feel like something wrong happened. And they were like, well, did you know like if it was your season or your time to go there? I was like, well, I was told that I was supposed to at some point go to Costa Rica. They were like, yeah, but was that the time for it? And I was like, I don't think so. And they were like, well, that's what happens. And so like I learned a really hard lesson during those seasons of like doing youth, doing young adults, and then going on the missions field when it was no longer my time to do those things.
Yeah.
I believe it was my time, and then I believe that the season of me doing those things ended.
Right.
But I didn't know how to communicate that. I didn't know how to actually be like, I think I'm transitioning out of here.
Well, to be honest though, like the place that we were serving at, there was no such thing as that.
Right.
Like there's no such thing as season. Like you're just kind of stuck. You stay there.
Right.
Until you die.
Right. And I think what I've learned is how unhealthy that mentality is. Because we can do that, like as I can speak from like a ministry perspective, like we tend to do ministry because we're afraid that like if I don't do it, who will?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if I don't do this, who's going to do it? And I remember having the conversation with Sam Lopez and Charlie, and they were my leaders at Hope Center, the church that I grew up in. And I remember you were there, and I remember me telling him that, where he was like, Steph, like, are you supposed to be doing this? This is after Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now doing youth and young adults.
Yeah.
And I'm dying. Like, I'm just exhausted. I'm not okay. I'm just dying. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. I don't know what to do about that. I know I'm supposed to be resting, but I don't know how to talk about it. I never knew that I could, you know? And so he ends up saying to me, like, Steph, like, are you supposed to be doing this anymore? And I'm like, well, if I don't, who will? And he's like, how do you think that? And I remember he said, Stephanie, if you're filling someone else's role, you're not giving another person the ability to do it, because they're like, oh, well, Steph is already taking on that position, even though I'm supposed to be there.
Dang.
I can't, because Steph is standing in that position when I have no business standing in that position.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and I remember being so mad at him, like, well, like, then what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, how do I, like, if I stop doing this, then I have nothing else to look forward to. Like, I have nothing else. This is all I know is ministry, ministry, ministry. And then as I started to like just study, and I broke down 3 John 1 about like, well, if your health is, if your mind, if your soul is prospering, then everything around you will prosper.
It's true.
You will prosper just as your soul prospers.
It's so true.
And I remember breaking it down and like learning what exactly it meant. And I remember being like, I'm not prospering. And I remember at this point was when everything was happening with Sam and Micah, where they were in their season of leaving. And I remember sitting with Micah and being like, Micah, it's important for us to understand our seasons. And that's when I started to learn seasons. And I said, Micah, it's your season to rest. It's your season to step down. Like, you're exhausted. And like, I think at that point, all of us were just exhausted.
We were all so burnt out.
Just burnt. And I remember like everything happened with the church. We ended up leaving. And I remember the Lord saying to me, now you understand why it's important for you to know what season you're in. I never asked those things of you. And when I was in Belgium, and this will always stay with me, one of the missionaries, he said to me, Stephanie, you can be an amazing speaker, but God could require you to be his hands and feet at that time. And you can say, no, but I want to speak. When you get to heaven, God will say to you, I never asked you to do that. What I asked you is to be my hands and feet. Right. And he was like, just be careful. I remember them saying that to me, be careful, because I'm such a like, oh, all in, I'll help, I'll serve kind of an individual, that they were the ones that were like, you need to know what is required of you from heaven and what is not required of you from heaven. And so I really brought that in with me as I continue to heal and rebuild. Like, okay, God, like what season am I in? And so for a period, it was a season of rest. I just rested. I didn't do any ministry. I didn't counsel. I did nothing. I did nothing. I didn't do anything when it came to like ministry and serving and anything. And then it was like a season of healing. And it was like, okay, now let's dig up all of this stuff. And like, I remember while we were in those seasons, like while I was in the season of healing, I had to be like, okay, what's happening here? Right. Like, I'm feeling angry. I'm depressed and I'm mad. Why? And I had to be like, oh, we're healing.
Yeah.
You know?
Guess, yeah. Like, I feel like knowing your season is just so important in general. And also knowing, I feel like there's like a transitional season as well. As like, 'cause you know, there's summer and there's winter. And then there's spring and there's fall. And spring and fall are normally like the very transitional periods until like the longer season.
Right.
And I feel like it's important for you to understand that transitional period, like that transitional season, just as much as it's important for you to understand the long-term seasonal period. Right. So like when we were at the old church that we were going to, there was a season where I don't really remember what was happening. This is before I went to Bethel. Right. Why? I wanted to go to Bethel. Why? Because...
Well, you wanted to do BSSM.
Yeah, okay. Because I was at this place in my life where I was probably 20. I had just turned 20. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, I don't know what I want to do. All this, blah, 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 you know. The typical 20-year-old. Right. And I was like, I'm just going to go to, like, school.
BSSM specifically.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go. And like BSSM is
a 1-year
for
school.
People who don't know. Yeah, and I was gonna go for like the 3-year program. Well, at least try to go for the 3-year program. And so you suggested that I go because you're a great friend and you know me. You know me very well. You were like, why don't you just go to Worship U, which is what Bethel puts on for worship leaders and songwriters and musicians and stuff. And it's a 2.5 week program out in California. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, let's just get your feet wet. Like, you don't even know if you like Reading.
You knew that I wasn't going to like it.
I did, yeah. Because I like, one, you've never even flown by yourself anywhere, let alone
I was going to go alone.
Yeah, and I'm like, God, you don't even know what Reading is like.
Right.
Like, you don't know, like, what that place... You don't even know if you're going to like it. So you're going to spend thousands of dollars for a year's school.
Honestly, and I would have probably had to have gotten my high school diploma. For those of you who don't know, I actually dropped out of high school like 2 weeks before junior year was over. Right. That's a whole story that I could probably share one of these days. But that's a very vulnerable story. But yeah, so I would have probably had to have gotten my high school diploma or GED on top of going to the school, which would have been like a whole
more money
thing.
And like a whole other thing. And so like I was like, I don't
and I'm
know.
an extremist, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah. I'm gonna move my entire life out to California. And I'm like, girl, you don't even like the heat sometimes. Yeah, that place is dead hot. Yeah. So I was like, let's just do the Worship U. Yeah. See how you feel. And then if you love it, go to BSSM.
Right. This is why it's very important to know that the season that you're going into is, as well as knowing the one that you're coming out of, all that, which is what I think transitional seasons are.
Yeah. It kind of gives you that space to figure it out.
So I did not do that. But I also didn't know the importance of figuring that out. And so you and I both went to Bethel. And this was actually after everything happened.
Literally
at the church.
Directly after.
Yeah, I think a month later. No. Like 2 weeks later, because I was still talking to some of the people who I was going to the church with, the old church. And so, this was directly after everything happened. So I was not in a good space, but we put in all this money,
again,
and we planned out everything. We got an Airbnb, everything was planned out, and we were not about to cancel that. Also, kudos to you. You're an incredible friend for like going out with me, and you weren't going to the school, to the Worship U. You were just gonna go and just like chill at the church.
Yeah, to support you. Yeah.
So we go, and I'm in this space where I'm like, I really need a breakthrough.
I just need Jesus.
I need Jesus because of the period that I was in a very, very dark space. And I thought that this was going to be the thing that got me out of what I was going through. Right. And I was very wrong about that. Right. So we went to Bethel, and I went to the first class and got up and left right after the worship set.
Yeah, I was sitting outside. I was like, what the heck?
I got up and left, and I sat down. I was like, Steph, no.
I can't do this.
I can't do this. I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
After all that money, all that traveling, like a very long time of traveling.
Right.
And then we were stuck there for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. In Reading. If you Reading's just
okay, like I don't know if it was just the area that we were in, but I don't think it was the area that we were in, Steph.
Reading's tough.
It was tough. It was like zombie apocalypse type
Drug addicts,
of weird situation, which is fine. It's just like not safe for 2 young girls to be there. And plus we didn't have a car, so we were Ubering everywhere with all these creepy people. It was just weird. But I remember that trip actually did so much more harm to me than it should have. Right. Because of the because of where I was at mentally. Like, I didn't want to be a worship leader anymore. I did not want anything to do with music, and yet I'm going to a music school basically for 2 weeks, an intensive where there's classes, and I'm surrounded by people who are just like doing amazing spiritually, or in this really great, well, supposedly, I know a lot of people show face, but like that's what I was getting. And like it was really, really tough for me to like sit in this room of people who are on fire for God, who are just happy to be there, excited, and I'm like, what am I not getting here? Right. Like, why am I not being touched by God? Right. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? Like, but it was just not this season for me to be at that place. Right. Now, I believe that if I were to go there now, I think I would have a good time. Like, I would actually go to the classes. Like, I had so much anxiety that I couldn't go to the classes. Right. We would show up to get the food. The lunch. You tried though. Like there were times where you walked into the services and you genuinely tried. Like you sat through some of the words and like, which like I'm proud of you, because like normally I knew how hard it was for you, and you did try. It wasn't that you like copped out. No, like no, not at all. I saw you really put your best foot forward. Thank you. And like in that moment, like looking back at it, like what you needed was a season of healing. Yeah, what just you quiet. What you needed was like peace and just someone to come over you and just remind you of whose you are. Yeah, and in that school, that's not necessarily what they're designed for. It's not that that's their fault. They're just not, that school, that specific program isn't designed to do that. And that's fine. Right. That's totally fine. And so like you need healing, but you're going to a school to be trained. Right. And I remember like it's where, I don't know, I was sitting and Amanda Cook was leading worship, and like the Helsers. Yeah. They're amazing. Yeah. And I remember he was saying, they were singing, what's the song that's on the radio now? I'll raise a hallelujah. Okay. That was the first time they ever sang that song. Right. And the song I think that they were singing there, that version is the one that they play on the radio, which is pretty dope. Anyway, but I remember there's this segment that they cut out of the song, obviously. So I don't know if a lot of people heard it, but if you go on YouTube, you can probably hear it. And Jonathan, I believe his name is, I was sitting there just like, I was just not miserable. I was just so dead, and I needed to be loved on, and I needed someone to just like pray for me, hold me, love me. Right. And he was like, oh gosh, he was like, it like, even saying it just like brings me back to the moment. He was saying how he can't sing my song for me. Like he was like, I can't sing my song for you. Like you have to get up and you have to sing it. And like, I agree with what he was saying, but me, like at that place, I was like, but I don't have anything in me to sing. You needed somebody to sing for you. I need somebody to sing for me because of how broken I am. Right. Like this isn't a moment of me being complacent and me just not caring about myself. I am so damaged that I need somebody to pick up my sword and fight for me. Right. Like I'm not at that space. And I remember like getting up and walking out and being like, yeah, this is not good. This isn't for me. Yeah, this is not for me. And like looking back on it, like I totally agree with, I get where he was coming from in that scenario. Right. But yeah, it was like the one thing you probably should not have said to me, and it just like tipped me over the edge. Right. And which is where I actually get I got this whole revelation of like how I feel like now coming out of that whole season from last year, a year and a half ago, like how I want to be able to be a voice for the people that don't have one. And like, how can you expect somebody to pick up their sword when they don't have arms? Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I want to be that for somebody. And it was kind of in that moment that I that kind of light bulb switched on for me, that I was like, okay, maybe this is my calling, but not right now.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe my calling is to just be a voice for the people who don't have one.
A voice
you know
for
what
the
I mean?
voiceless.
Yeah, literally that. Or until they have enough courage to use their own. But yes, so that's my story on why seasons are really important to follow, because you can do so much more damage to yourself and your soul, your body, all of that.
Right.
Your relationships, like we weren't even like doing that well. Like our friendship was just, it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough.
All because that dang trip, bro.
Yeah, and again, like it's hard, I would say, if you don't know like that you can do that, because we didn't know like how to do that, or if it was something that was possible.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Like identifying like what season you're in.
Yes.
Like
okay.
We didn't know that was something that we could do.
That you're supposed to do.
That
in
you're
a sense,
supposed to do. Yeah, like being able to say like, no, like right now I can't be a voice for you, or I can't lift my voice because I'm hurting.
Right.
And like learning to communicate that.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned personally.
Right.
And I don't know, would you say that you learned that?
Yeah.
Like learn to identify like, I'm sorry, I can't counsel you right now.
Right.
I'm hurting. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't give you this right now. I know you want me to sing. I know you want me to lead worship. I know you want me to dance. I know you want me to play. I know you want me to do these things, but I can't do it right now because this is where I'm at in this season. Like
it's almost not like I can't. It's almost like, well, that's not the season God's calling me to right now.
Right. But in a sense, you can't do it because even you would, like in last episode, you said like my voice was like not working.
Yeah.
Like it gets to a point where you stop functioning.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like you stop functioning. And so like it's like this sense of like I can't do it. Like I physically cannot. Or like the Lord said to me, no, I'm not supposed to be doing that right now. Like Psalm 23, am I supposed to be laying in green pastures?
Mm-hmm.
Like am I supposed to just be laying there? Or am I supposed to be led by still waters? Like where am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be moving with you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Am I supposed to be laying, or am I supposed to be moving? Am I in the valley?
Right.
Right.
I believe like you and I have spoken to some people who are in ministry, but this isn't just have to do with ministry, but our stories have to do with ministry. So that's the only place that I can really speak on from experience. Mm-hmm. But we've spoken to people who are in ministry, and they were telling us like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I need to stop. But I can't.
Right.
Because if I don't do it,
who will? Yeah.
But that's not up to you to find somebody to put to
you are not God.
Fill your spot.
You're not God. And here's the thing, like the Father is the one that gave you that space.
Exactly.
And if the Father is asking you to take a season of rest, that means that he has already had someone in mind to take that space while you're resting.
Exactly.
And that there's a vital reason for you to be resting, because the rest or the transition or whatever it is, if he's asking you to step down, the reason for it is because he's getting ready to bring you into a new season, bring you into it's important for you to know that. And there's some things that he wants to teach you in the midst, but can't, because you are holding a position that he's calling you from. Does that make sense? And so like, and this could be with a job too. Like a lot of the times people are miserable in their job. Well, is your season up for that job? Are you still supposed to be there? Or even relationships. Like we're going to do a segment on relationships. Like sometimes the friendship is over. Sometimes the season for that friendship is up, or the season for that relationship is up. That was a seasonal thing, and the Lord allowed it for a season, but it's time to move on. And that's some things that I've experienced personally, because I'm such a, like, everyone in my life, I'm like, keep. You know what I'm saying? That when the season of it is up, I would feel like, well, they abandoned me. And the Lord was like, no, they were there for a season. It wasn't a forever thing. There will be forever friends, but not every person in your life is a forever friend. It's a seasonal thing, and it's important to learn who is in here for this season and who's in here for forever. Who's with me for this? Is this job a forever job? Or is this job just a seasonal job? Is this ministry that I'm doing, is this a forever forever thing, or does the Lord have me here for this appointed time?
Right.
Whatever it is, it's well with my soul, but it's important to understand that sometimes things are seasonal, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything wrong.
Yep.
Right? Because I think what ends up happening is like we say things like, well, what did I do wrong that the Lord removed me from there? That the Lord is asking me to step down, but that the Lord is saying, not right now.
Right.
What did I do wrong?
We think of ourselves as like a failure.
Right, we do. And I remember we did Bethesda, which was a church that we were planting. And I remember the Lord saying to me, like, it's not the time yet. It's not the time yet. And I was like so confused, you know?
Yep.
And I remember the Lord saying, remember, the time is a time of healing, not the time of ministry yet. And I still do Bible studies, you know? But like, I remember stepping back and I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I failed. And I remember the Lord speaking to my heart and being like, and it was actually, it came through you, like where you were like, it was recently actually. And it was like, you didn't fail. It just is going to look differently. And like in time, we will understand why. And like we were talking, we saw Charlie this weekend. We were talking to Charlie about it too. And one of the things that we said was like, it's important to know, like when you're coming out of a season, what you learned in the season prior. And what you can add into this season, whether you're in a season of rest or whether you're in a season of, sometimes we could be in a season of warring.
Oh God.
Right? There's different seasons, which I think we should get into.
Sure.
You know, like there could be a season of warring where you need to get on.
Well, there was that season that you and I both collectively were like warring for my family. This is a while ago. Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was really hard. I constantly like, that was tough.
Praying, we were fasting.
But like, that was a seasonal thing.
It was.
And we genuinely saw breakthrough.
We
like
saw breakthrough.
My family, like my relationship with them has all been completely mended because of that season.
Yeah. There was
like
a lot
me and my sister, Sam, you know, girl, we were going through it, sweetie. We were like on non-speaking terms. And like, if people know Sam and I, like, what? You know what I mean? So yeah. There's a warring season for that.
There's warring seasons. There's seasons
when my brother was
dying, we stormed heaven.
Yeah.
There's seasons where you need to war, where you need to cry out to God, where there needs to be prayer, there needs to be that fervent prayer. And then there's season where it's silence.
Yeah, I love that. Those are my favorite.
Those seasons scare the crap out of me.
Those are my favorite.
And like, if you don't know that that's the season that you're in spiritually with the Father, you're going to think that God stopped speaking to you. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? This is why it's so important, because you're going to think like, why did heaven stop speaking? But in the silence, like your mom always says this, where she says, in quiet and confidence is your strength. And it's like this sense of like, why is the Lord quiet? Right? But if I'm confident in him,
the whole book of Esther is just God
silence,
like, being completely
the silence
silent.
of God. Yeah. If I'm confident in him, that even in his silence, I know he is for me. Yeah. Right. But like, if I don't know that I'm in that season, I'm going to think I did something wrong. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then there's seasons of like absolute just worship and rejoice and blow the trumpet in Zion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there's different seasons for everything. And like, it's important to like, and I'm not saying take everything like so serious and like there's a balance there, but
just know where you're at. Be aware.
It's important to be aware of like where you're at and where you're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here, but I am here. I can't do this, but I can do this. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to say those things. There's no shame there. If anything, the Lord wants you to be able to say those things.
What season would you say you're in?
I don't know. I think I'm in a bit of a like
trying to figure it out right now. So
yeah, transition maybe. I know there's a lot of change that's happened in the last month. So I don't know what season I'm in. I know I've been like trying to find stability in the change. Okay. Because I thrive in stability. Yeah. So I'm trying to find a sense of like letting everything kind of fall into place for me to be able to be like, okay, like this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm not doing, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of in this weird like transition period, because I went from doing no ministry to full-time ministry to now no longer doing full-time ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a constant like a shift in like, okay, now I'm doing something different. And that's hard for me.
Yeah.
Like change is really hard for me because of everything has changed so drastically in my life.
Yep.
Like changes are so drastic for me. So I would say I'm in a transition period of like, okay, God, like I'm working towards a certain goal, but I don't know what goal it is yet.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So you're trying to
like, I know that there's something that God wants to do with me through the school I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know there's something significant that the Lord wants to do through me there. But I also know that the Lord also wants me to start preparing myself for what He's called me to do.
Right.
Not that the school isn't what He was called me to do, but there's two avenues. I feel like I'm stretched in two different spaces.
Okay.
So I'm like trying to figure out how to do that and like the job aspect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like my full-time calling and then my job.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, how am I supposed to do the two? So I'm in this weird space of like trying to figure that out, I guess. How about you?
I think I'm in like a season of, it's tough because there's nothing going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's no issues that need to be tackled. I feel the first word that comes to mind is like reflective.
Okay.
I feel this need to really ponder on what I learned in the past 2 years and start taking what I learned and like really applying it to my present day. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just like, but also knowing that there's so much more to learn and gearing myself up to be corrected and be taught new things. Right. So yeah, I don't know. I feel maybe I'm still in a learning period, I think. Yeah. Because even with like my music and stuff, I'm still learning my sound and I'm still learning how I like to write and like trying to figure all that out. Right. So I feel like I'm in like a learning season. Right. Yeah. Like I might want to go and get my high school diploma or I might want to take online classes of like theology or stuff like that. So yeah, I'm in like a learning period.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my future is starting.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, let me reflect on what's happened and let me make sure I learn what I need to learn right in the present day because I know it's happening soon.
Yeah, I feel like mine has already started.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in it. Like I stepped into it.
You already have things like aligned that you're like, what?
Right, that I'm like, oh, this is the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And this time, guys, I know it's a God opportunity, not just a good opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's like legit a God opportunity.
A God opportunity, like God.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it soon. But yeah, like I feel like I'm stepping into it. So it's like this, like I'm almost careful because I'm like, okay, like I'm doing this right now, but I know that the Lord is aligning things for me to do that. So how do these two correlate? You get what I'm saying? Like what's the purpose? I know there's a reason for this, but I also know there's a reason for this other thing. So like, okay, God, like how do these two meet in the middle? Like, am I going to meet someone through there? Like, what is it that the Lord is necessarily doing? So I'm in like a weird transition of just like waiting and watching, of like waiting to see what the Lord is going to do in these two areas and watching like it all unfold before me. Yeah. That's I guess that's what I can call as a waiting and watching season. Yeah. So I just want to encourage you guys, like do some self-evaluation. Yeah. Like where are you and what do you need? What do you need the Lord to do, or where do you need the Lord to speak? What do you need? You know, what season are you in? Are you in a resting season? Do you need to rest in His shadow? Do you need to abide in Him? Do you need joy restored? Are you in a transition period? What does that look like for you? Like take the time out to actually do a self-evaluation of where you're at.
Yeah, and let us know. Like I really am genuinely curious as to see where everybody else is at.
Yeah, we said this our second podcast. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But we said in our second podcast, like we really want to come alongside people.
I really love people. I really care about them.
Right. So we want to know, like, what do you need prayer for? You know, we said that I think our second podcast, like if you need prayer, let us know. Like if you need help figuring out what season you're in, let us know.
Yeah,
like we want to help you and
Yeah.
we want to pray with you. We want to be there with you. So like let us know.
This podcast has turned into like oh my
Low key
God.
pastoral.
We're just like, well, we need to do ministry somewhere, so we just created a whole other avenue.
For real though.
No, I care. I really love
Yeah,
people.
I do too. So yeah, like let us know. Make sure you guys comment. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe.
Follow our Instagrams as well.
Yeah, follow our Instagrams. DM us. Let us know where you guys are at. Let us know if you guys like this podcast.
What do you like to hear? What do you want to hear?
Yeah, if you want to hear about my story in Belgium, let me know.
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear. It's so cool.
Yeah, let me know. We love you guys so
Yes.
much. Thanks for hearing us out. Thanks for letting us share. Thanks for giving us the space and room to share. If you want to be on here, if you want to be a guest, let us know. We have a few lined up and we'll definitely schedule you in. Yeah, we love you guys. And we'll hear you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
What? We'll see you guys next week.
We won't hear them.
We will see you guys next week. We will talk. We won't even see them. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes.
Jeez.
Oh God.
Am I okay?
Let's go to bed.